Hi friends, Cass here. I hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to talk about the 10 books that I want to read this spring. We are about to spring ahead and it is right around freezing outside. It was pouring down snow last night, but we're going to talk about the spring books anyways. I was actually incredibly successful with my winter TBR. I read every single book that I put on that list. I think there were 12 of them that I had picked out for winter. And usually I don't get through every single book on these lists. So I was very proud of myself. I have 10 books today, and yeah, there's not really like a particular theme or anything that I chose for these books, just the ones that I'm really excited to get to and wanted to prioritize. Sorry if I seem distracted today. I am going to be going to a cat cafe in a few hours here and hopefully filling out an application to adopt one of the cats there. I have had my eye on this one that's been there for a couple weeks, and I'm really hoping that she's still available and that like she hasn't gotten any applications because she's so cute, and I just am really hoping that I can adopt her. I live by myself. My family had a dog that we got when I was in 5th grade. He passed away a couple of years ago. And as much as I love living on my own, I just am really missing having, you know, a little companion. So I'm really hoping that things work out, and I'm just like, today. So I will definitely keep you guys updated as things hopefully work out with that, because like I'm so excited. The first book that I would like to get to this spring is Asylum Road by Olivia Sudjic. Olivia has written 2 5-star reads for me, Sympathy, her novel, and Exposure, her nonfiction. So I'm really excited to finally be getting to this one. The description says, the taut, knife-sharp, compulsive second novel by the critically acclaimed author Olivia Sudjic for fans of First Love, Days of Abandonment, and Hot Milk. Loving the vibes already. A couple drive from London to coastal Provence. Anya is preoccupied with what she feels is a relationship on the verge, unequal, precarious. Luke, reserved, stoic, gives away nothing. As the sun sets one evening, he proposes and they return to London engaged. But planning a wedding does little to settle Anya's unease. As a child, she escaped from Sarajevo, and the idea of security is as alien now as it was then. When social convention forces Anya to return, she begins to change. The past she sought to contain for as long as she can remember resurfaces, and the hot summer builds to a startling climax. That does sound, as far as like the hot summer and everything like that, sounds very Days of Abandonment to me. Lean, sly, and unsettling, Asylum Road is about the many borders governing our lives, between men and women, assimilation and otherness, nations, families, order, and chaos. What happens and who do we become when they break down? I've received some mixed comments whenever I showed this book in a haul previously, but I feel like Olivia Sudjic's books are kind of a little bit divisive anyways. Like Sympathy was really lowly rated in the video that I did a couple weeks ago comparing my ratings to the internet. So yeah, I'm curious to see how I find this one given the mixed opinions that I've seen. So that book was actually a Christmas gift for my friend Claire, and this next one is as well. We have the Paris Trilogy by Colombe Schneck. I feel like this has been compared to like Annie Ernaux and Deborah Levy, so I'm very excited about that. Also, looking at the like description that I have pulled up online, I feel like the one on the inside flap of the book is actually a lot more substantial. So I'm just gonna read from this. So the subtitle of this is A Life in 3 Stories. So there's like 3 different parts to this book. The description says, in 17, friendship and swimming, Colombe Schneck orchestrates a coming of age in 3 movements. She is 17 in 1984 and carefree, busy discovering sex and studying for her baccalaureate. When she becomes pregnant, her choice to have an abortion is never in question. Yet suddenly she must grapple with the body that has brought the precarity of her freedom into focus. Colombe and Heloise are 2 little Parisian liberals, friends since the age of 11. They look alike, have similar upbringings, and for years they follow parallel paths. University, love affairs, work, marriage, children, divorce, more love affairs. They are the most enduring witnesses to each other's lives until illness betrays them. Colombe reconnects with Gabriel in her 50s. The relationship is passionate and transformative. As it unfolds, Colombe discovers many things about herself, including a newfound appreciation for swimming and the euphoria and strength of a body learning when to push and when to let go. Writing in response to Annie Ernaux and in conversation with Elena Ferrante, Colombe Schneck's 3 semi-autobiographical takes on a woman's life form an elegant exploration of sexuality, bodily autonomy, friendship, loss, and renewal. Sounds right up my alley. I am really excited to get to this one. It was also translated by Lauren Elkin. She wrote Art Monsters, which I made a whole video on. She also wrote Scaffolding, which was released last year, which I enjoyed. And I found out that she also translated Inseparable by Simone de Beauvoir. So yeah, I am really intrigued to see how her translation is. After that, I'd like to read The Guardians, An Elegy for a Friend by Sarah Manguso. Sarah Manguso is becoming one of my favorite authors. I am still thinking about Liars that was released from her last summer. And I also read The Two Kinds of Decay pretty recently, and that one was also really good. I've read a couple other from her, but those two have been big standouts, and I am looking forward to getting to this one, even though it sounds pretty dark. I ordered this from the Wombhouse Books website after attending like a Zoom event with Sarah Manguso. The description says, The Guardians opens with a story from the July 24th, 2008 edition of the Riverdale Press that begins, an unidentified white man was struck and instantly killed by a Metro North train last night as it pulled into the station on West 254th Street. Sarah Manguso writes, the train's engineer told the police that the man was alone and that he jumped. The police officers pulled the body from the track and found no identification. The train's 425 passengers were transferred to another train and delayed about 20 minutes. The Guardians is an elegy for Manguso's friend Harris, 2 years after he escaped from a psychiatric hospital and jumped under that train. The narrative contemplates with unrelenting clarity their crowded post-college apartment, Manguso's fellowship year in Rome, Harris's death, and the year that followed, the year of mourning and the year of Manguso's marriage, which the dissolution of she writes about in Liars. As Harris is revealed both to the reader and to the narrator, the book becomes a monument to their intimacy and inability to express their love for each other properly, and to the reverberating effects of Harris's presence in and absence from Manguso's life. There is grief in the book, but also humor, as Manguso marvels at the unexpected details that constitute a friendship. The Guardians explores the insufficiency of explanation and the necessity of the imagination in making sense of anything. I feel like Manguso is so skilled at writing about difficult topics, so I'm sure she's going to handle this in just a very beautiful, thought-provoking way. Then I also added another book from an author that I'm recently kind of getting into, hoping will become one that I really enjoy, and that is Sigrid Nunez. This is the last of her kind. I read The Friend by her a little while ago, like a couple years ago. Didn't love it, but I just recently read What Are You Going Through and really enjoyed that one. So I'm hoping to get more into her work this year, and I have had this on my shelf. I got it at Half Price Books forever ago, so figured it was time to get to it. The description says, Sigrid Nunez's The Last of Her Kind introduces 2 women who meet as freshmen on the Columbia campus in 1968. Georgette George, that's a name. Georgette George does not know what to make of her brilliant, idealistic roommate, Anne Drayton, and her obsessive disdain for the ruling class into which she is born. She is mortified by Anne's romanticization of the underprivileged class, which Georgette herself is hoping college will enable her to escape. After the violent fight that ends their friendship, Georgette wants only to forget Anne and turn her attention to the troubled runaway kid sister who has reappeared after years on the road. Then, in 1976, Anne is convicted of murder. At first, Anne's fate appears to be the inevitable outcome of her belief in the moral imperative to make justice in a world where there are no innocent white people. But searching for answers to the riddle of this friend of her youth, Georgette finds more complicated and mysterious forces at work. The novel's narrator, Georgette, illuminates the terrifying life of this difficult, doomed woman and in the process discovers how much their early encounter has determined her own path and why, decades later, as she tells us, I have never stopped thinking about her. I don't think that I had like read the description of this book whenever I bought it, because I don't remember hearing about any of that. That sounds like a lot, but also sounds very interesting. So yeah, I'm hoping that Sigrid Nunez does it for me again. I think this is an earlier book of hers, 2006. I don't know how early that is in like the scheme of her career, but yeah, I am really hoping that this one works for me. I have a copy of The Vulnerables, which is her newest release as well. So like if I have a good experience with this one, I'll probably bump The Vulnerables up on my priority list. Next, we have a New York Review Books edition that I've had for a while from an author that I've been wanting to get to for a while, but just haven't taken the plunge yet. But I've been hearing so much about her online, and that is Magda Szabo. This is The Door. The description of this one says, a busy young writer struggling to cope with domestic chores hires a housekeeper recommended by a friend. The housekeeper's reputation is one built on dependable efficiency, though she is something of an oddity. Stubborn, foul-mouthed, and with a flagrant disregard for her employer's opinions, she may even be crazy. She allows no one to set foot inside her house. She masks herself with a veil and is equally guarded about her personal life. And yet, Emerence is revered as much as she is feared. As the story progresses, her energy and passion to help become clear, extinguishing any doubts arising out of her bizarre behavior. A stylishly told tale which recounts a strange relationship built up over 20 years between a writer and her housekeeper. After an unpromising and caustic start, benign feelings develop, and ultimately the writer benefits from what becomes an inseparable relationship. Simultaneously, we learn Emerence's tragic past, which is revealed in snapshots throughout the book. Heard really good things about this. It also has an introduction by Ali Smith, which is funny to me. I have been reconsidering my decision to not pick up any Ali Smith for a while, so we'll see how I feel about her writing in this introduction, and then I might request Artful by Ali Smith from the library. Next up, we have The Unwritten Book by Samantha Hunt. I know that this one plays around with form a bunch. I have not read anything by Samantha Hunt. I know that The Seas was like really blowing up online these past couple years, but I haven't read that yet. This one sounds really interesting to me and more up my alley than The Seas does, so I'm gonna start with this. The description says, from Samantha Hunt, the award-winning author of The Dark Dark, which I actually also have that book on my shelves. I got it at a library sale, I think last year. It's her short story collection, so I've been kind of hesitant to pick it up. Anyways, from Samantha Hunt comes The Unwritten Book, her first work of nonfiction, a genre-bending creation that explores the importance of books, the ideas of haunting, and messages from beyond. I carry each book I've ever read with me, just as I carry my dead. Those things that aren't really there, those things that shape everything I am. A genre-bending work of nonfiction, Samantha Hunt's The Unwritten Book explores ghosts, ghost stories, and haunting, in the broadest sense of each. What is it to be haunted, to be a ghost, to die, to live, to read? Books are ghosts. Reading is communion with the dead. Alcohol is a way of communing too, as well as a way of dying. Each chapter gathers subjects that dead people, the forest, the towering library of all those books will never have time to read or write. I feel like that sentence doesn't make sense. Each chapter gathers subjects that... Yeah, I don't think that that's a real sentence. Anyways, Hunt, like a mad crossword puzzler, looks for patterns and clues. Through literary criticism, history, family history, and memoir, inspired by W.G. Sebald, James Joyce, Ali Smith, again with the Ali Smith guys. I think the universe is trying to tell me that I should read her again. Toni Morrison, William Faulkner, and many others, Hunt explores motherhood, hoarding, legacies of addiction, grief, how we insulate ourselves from the past, how we misinterpret the world. Nestled within her inquiry is a very special ghost book, an incomplete manuscript about people who can fly without wings, written by her father and found in his desk just days after he died. What secret messages might his work reveal? What wisdom might she distill from its unfinished pages? Hunt conveys a vivid and grateful life, one that comes from living closer to the dead and shedding fear for wonder. The unwritten book revels in the randomness, connectivity, and magic of everyday existence, and at its heart is the immense weight of love. I'm really interested to see how she incorporates this manuscript of her father's. I think that that could either really work for me or really not. I don't know, we'll see, but I don't think that I've seen anything like that in a book previously, so that kind of pulled me in with this. Okay, up next, let's talk about a book that I literally just purchased last weekend. Claire and I did a little trip to White Whale Bookstore, and I came away with just one book. I was very proud of the restraint that I showed. And this is a book that I actually really kind of picked up on a whim. I saw someone that I'm friends with on Goodreads like the review of some other random person talking about this book, and that person really liked it, and I saw it on like the new releases table at White Whale, and I was like, well, let me get it. It is a hardcover, but I did have a like $11 reward to use at White Whale, so the price was not bad at all, so I was like, we're gonna go for it. I also feel like this book, I'm gonna tell you what it is. The book is Theory and Practice by Michelle de Kretser, and I feel like this is maybe gonna be in conversation with a digital arc from NetGalley that I'm reading right now, which is In the Rhododendrons by Heather Crystal. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but that is a memoir that is having to do with Virginia Woolf, and this book is also talking about Virginia Woolf. So I feel like it'll be kind of nice to read those two books close to each other. The description says, with echoes of Shirley Hazard and Virginia Woolf, a new novel of startling intelligence from prize-winning author Michelle de Kretser, following a woman looking back on her young adulthood and grappling with the collision of her emotions and her values. In the late 1980s, the narrator of Theory and Practice, a first-generation immigrant from Sri Lanka who moved to Sydney in her childhood, sets up a life in Melbourne for graduate school. Jilted by a lover who cheats on her with another self-described feminist, she is thrown into deeper confusion about her identity and the people around her. The narrator begins to fall for a man named Kit, who is in a deconstructed relationship with a woman named Olivia. She struggles to square her feminism against her jealousy towards Olivia, and her anti-colonialism against her feelings about Virginia Woolf, whose work she is called to despite her racism. What happens when our desires run contrary to our beliefs? What should we do when the failings noises are happening? What should we do when the failings of revered figures come to light? Who is shamed when the truth is told? In Theory and Practice, Michelle de Kretser offers a spellbinding meditation on the moral complexities that arise in this gap. Peopled with brilliantly drawn characters, the novel also stitches together fiction and essay, taking up Woolf's quest for adventurous literary form. So yeah, I am more intrigued by like the form and the literary criticism aspect of this book than the like relationship aspect, but we'll see how this works for me. It does have a Sigrid Nunez blurb on the back of it, so that's kind of fun. There's a lot of like connections between like the authors of these books and like the introductions and blurbs and stuff, so I like that. I think that'll be nice to kind of connect things this spring. The last couple books that I have are from my like 2025 goals, books that I want to get to list. I have been working through the catalogs of Annie Ernaux and Rachel Cusk. I made a Rachel Cusk like author spotlight video last year, and I'm hoping to do one for Annie Ernaux soon. So I'm trying to finish up their books, and I feel like this spring is gonna be a good time to make a dent in those. So yeah, let's talk about them. I'm gonna do one Annie Ernaux nonfiction and one Annie Ernaux novel. So the nonfiction that I'd like to read from her is A Man's Place. This is about her father. I've read a couple books from Ernaux this year so far. I read A Woman's Story back in January, which is about her mother and her mother's death. This is about her father and her father's death. So I feel like they're kind of good to read close to each other as well. This is also one of the shortest ernaux that I have left, so I was like, let me get through the tinies and then I'll tackle her couple like longer works that I have. The description says, Annie Ernaux's father died exactly 2 months after she passed her practical examination for a teaching certificate. Barely educated and valued since childhood strictly for his labor, Ernaux's father had grown into a hard, practical man who showed his family little affection. Narrating his slow ascent towards material comfort, Ernaux's cold observation reveals the shame that haunted her father throughout his life. She scrutinizes the importance he attributed to manners and language that came so unnaturally to him as he struggled to provide for his family with a grocery store and cafe in rural France. Over the course of the book, Ernaux grows up to become the uncompromising observer now familiar to the world, while her father matures into old age with a staid appreciation for life as it is, and for a daughter he cautiously, even reluctantly, admires. A Man's Place is the companion book to her critically acclaimed memoir about her mother, A Woman's Story. Called it, didn't even know that was said in the description of this. So yeah, I am also intrigued to read this because I read her Nobel Prize speech, I Will Write to Avenge My People. I'm pretty sure that she mentions this book in that speech as kind of the turning point for her writing, where her earlier books before this one were a little bit more like flowery and emotional with the language, and I think that this is when she kind of transformed into her more detached, sparse prose, which is what I love from her. So I'm excited to get to this one. And then we're also gonna do a novel from her now, and this is one of the earlier books of hers, I think before she kind of made that switch in her style. So this is Do What They Say or Else. This has not been re-released in the Fitzcarraldo editions, or Seven Stories Press is the other one that has been like re-releasing her books. They haven't gotten to this one yet. So yeah, I feel like this is kind of a deep cut in the Ernaux catalog. The description says, originally published in 1977, Do What They Say or Else is the second novel by French author Annie Ernaux. Set in a small town in Normandy, France, the novel tells the story of a 15-year-old girl named Anne who lives with her working-class parents. The story, which takes place during the summer and fall of Anne's transition from middle school to high school, is narrated in a stream of consciousness style from her point of view. Ernaux captures Anne's adolescent voice, through which she expresses her keen observations in a highly colloquial style. As the novel progresses and Anne's feelings about her parents, her education, and her sexual encounters evolve, she grows into a more mature but also more conflicted and unhappy character, leaving behind the innocence of her middle school years. Not only must she navigate the often confusing signals she receives from boys, but she also finds herself moving further and further away from her parents as she surpasses their educational level and worldview. This, I feel like, is maybe going to be kind of a fictionalized version of, what is the title of this one? A Girl's Story. So we have a girl's story, a woman's story, a man's place. A Girl's Story is a memoir about her time at summer camp when she was a teenager and kind of her first sexual encounters. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some parallels between this novel and that book. The last book that I have on my list for this spring is The last novel that I have on my list for the spring is The Bradshaw Variations by Rachel Cusk. This is one of the few Rachel Cusks that I have left to read. I need to get to this one, In the Fold, and then The Last Supper, which I don't have a copy of yet. And then I think I'm done with all of Cusk's books, which is crazy. I've had this one for a while. I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. The description says, Thomas Bradshaw and Tony Swan are experiencing the classic symptoms of marriage in its middle years. Comfortable house, happy enough daughter, and an eerie sense that life might be happening elsewhere. Then Tony accepts a big promotion at work, and Thomas agrees to become a stay-at-home dad. While Thomas is suddenly faced with the daily silence of an empty house, Tony finds herself alive to previously unimagined possibilities. And at the head of the family, the aging Bradshaw parents continue their marital dynamic of bickering and petty undermining. I feel like this is gonna be along the lines of Arlington Park, which is my favorite novel from Cusk, kind of turning on its head the housewives and like stay-at-home moms that were in Arlington Park with the stay-at-home dad thing here. So I think that should be interesting. Yeah, I just think it's time for me to get through the rest of Cusk, so we're gonna do it. All right, I feel like we discovered some fun author connections throughout the course of this video, so that's fun. That gets me excited to read these books over the next couple months. Let me know what you plan on picking up this spring. I feel like I have successfully been avoiding the reading slump that has been afflicting many people online this time of year, and I'm hoping that I can continue to avoid that. Hopefully these books don't send me into a slump. So yeah, let me know what you're gonna get up to in the next couple months, and we will talk soon. Bye.